everybody, and welcome back to another book read. Today's video, I am going to show you my top 10 favorite books, starting at number 10 and then working our way to number 1, which would be my favorite book. If you like this kind of video, please feel free to subscribe and like and comment. I would love to hear from you. All right, well, let's get started. I'm so excited. All right, so at number 10 would be The Deal by Elle Kennedy. I read this just a few months ago, actually, and I really just felt it spoke to me on a lot of levels. I am a huge hockey fan. I have season tickets to my local team here in Charleston, and so that aspect is why I picked it up. That was, I had seen about it, I had heard about it, I had, heard it was about hockey, so I picked it up, and the book just had so many moving parts, and it's dual POV, so you get to hear from both the main characters and Hannah and Garrett, and it was just nice to see both of their sides and how they were feeling as the things were happening to them in the book. It does have a few trigger warnings and age warnings, like age restrictions, so please look into that before you pick it up. Check out the trigger warnings. But if you haven't read it, it's really good. And the second book was just as good. Maybe not just as good, but really close to just as good. Also trigger warnings in that one too. And I cannot wait to pick up books 3, 4, and 5. All right. So number 9 is Ugly Love by Colleen Hoover. I, no joke, had heard so many things about Colleen Hoover that I finally decided I was going to pick up one of her books. Didn't care which one it was. I just wanted to read a Colleen Hoover book. So I went to my local Barnes & Nobles, and this happened to be the only one they had in stock. So I picked it up. Oh my goodness. I think I read it in like 6 hours straight. I had a day off from work. Just didn't stop reading it. It was that good. You have to take in mind that when they write in Miles' point of view, I was a little taken aback at first. It's more kind of poem-y, vibe-ish, not quite, like full paragraphs, full sentences, but it really doesn't matter in the grand scheme of how good the book is. But just, check it out, and if that's not something that's going to suit well with you, then maybe skip this one. So, number 8, and I've lost the dust jacket for it, is Saint Anything by Sarah Dessen. So good. I love Sarah Dessen in general. Her books always tackle important topics for the young adult graduate, you're coming of age, graduating high school, coming into college, and all of the names in her story, like her main characters, are always so good. I'm always like, ooh, baby name list, like I'm gonna write that down. And this book I feel like it really touched on like some things that I had felt coming into my coming of age and, graduating high school and not knowing where my future was headed after that. And, just finding your people was really what this book spoke to me about, was finding your people after you graduate high school, your group of friends that are going to be there with you till the end. So, number 7, Salt to the Sea by Ruth Sepetys. I picked up this book at Mr. K's after I had read Between Shades of Grey, and I had kind of thought like, I don't know that I want to read this one. I knew just from flipping through that it kind of did different points of view, different people, kind of throughout. I was like, I'm not too sure, but they all kind of come together. They all kind of mesh into one group, and then so you're again getting that vibe of how each person is dealing with the same circumstance that's happening to everyone around them. The topic is, World War II. They're all trying to just find freedom and not be taken, So it's about the sinking of the Wilhelm Gustloff. I'm pretty sure that's how you say that. I feel like he handled the topic so well. He really makes you think, and he made me sad. I cried so many times while I read this book. Pick it up if any of that era, that subject really like hits home with you. This book covers it so well. Coming in at number 6 is Emma by Jane Austen. I think I said in my intro video how much I love Jane Austen. This book was the second I read of Jane Austen's. I read Pride and Prejudice first, but Emma was, number 2, followed by Sense and Sensibility. But Emma, her character, I think fits mine so well. Just wanting to be a strong, independent woman, not particularly looking for love, but wanting love for all of her friends, and then just kind of happening upon love. That's kind of where I see myself going. I really enjoyed her story and getting to know her and her dad's, close companionship, and her wanting to make sure her dad was always taken care of. It's a classic for a reason. That's all I have to say. Coming in at number 5 is From Blood and Ash by Jennifer L. Armentrout. I feel like this could really just be the whole series. They were all so good. But I figured I'd pick the first one because the first one is what made me read the whole series. I was hooked in sentence 2. I didn't expect for what happened in the first paragraph to be the first paragraph. In a normal book, I feel like that would be chapter 8. You'd be like, oh, we're just meeting, the real person in this story. But no, it was chapter 1, sentence 4. So I like that she just got straight to the point, right to, the meat of the story. This book never stopped moving. It's so good. If you haven't checked out the From Blood and Ash series, check it out. You won't be disappointed. I don't know why I was going to say disrespected. You won't be disappointed. And yes, I'm having to count because counting backwards is not my foray. So, coming in at number 4 is A Court of Mist and Fury by Sarah J. Maas. And let me tell you, if I hadn't read this one yet, A Court of Mist and Fury would still be right here. But who likes Tamlin anymore, okay? Rhys is life. This book, I was not gonna lie, I read A Court of Mist and Fury. I stayed up way too late on a work night and finished it. And then I was like, if her and Tamlin do not work this out and aren't in love at the end of this series, I'm not gonna read the rest of them. And then I Googled it. Don't do that. Don't Google. And I found out that, that's not really what happens. But I'm glad I kept going. I waited a while, actually. There was a couple of weeks before I went and picked this one up because I was so disappointed. But you will not be disappointed. I promise. This book is way better than the first one. And I thought the first one was so, so, so good. Okay, coming in at number 3 is Between Shades of Grey by Ruth Sepetys. This book made me cry from about sentence 8 until the end. Oh my goodness, it's so heavy, but also so, so good. The main character, she's a teenager. Her name is Lena. She really takes you through the journey of being taken by the Gestapo and taken to a work camp and then taken to Siberia and losing her dad and her mom and, having to keep her little brother alive, but also being one of the leaders in their camp in Siberia and trying to help everyone else stay alive. It's so good. I still cry when I think about it. They did a really good adaptation on, I think it's Amazon, with the new name, and I can't remember exactly what they've called it now, but the book is way better, but the adaptation is actually really good, and it follows the storyline as well as possible. I think they they used one part of the story and kind of made it not so graphic and what you understand is happening in the book. They don't really hit that point in the movie just so it could have a wider audience, and it wasn't that integral to the book that you are like, oh, they missed a big part. It was a side character that, you know, that was really her only part in the book. But that was a total train of thought that just went woo somewhere else. But this book is really good, just as good as From the Salt and Sea or Salt to the Sea. Same time period, same subjects, just two different journeys, two totally different journeys. You know, one got freedom and one did not. You should give it a read if any of that interests you. You know, World War II and all of that. Like, it's so good. Coming in at number 2, and I'm not gonna lie, trying to decide between 1 and 2 on these 2 books is so hard. They could be tied for number 1, and I could have shown you 11 books, but I tried really hard to make a decision. So just know that this is number like 1 1/3 or 1 1/2 or 1 and 1.1, 1.00001. However the math works. Math was not my thing, obviously, books. So coming in at number 2 is The Truth About Forever by Sarah Dessen. This book, I don't know what it was about this book that hit me so hard in high school, but it hit me so hard. I cried with her. I pushed her and I was like, just do it. Like, I don't know why you're stopping, Macy. Like, just do it. Even though she couldn't hear me. And getting so mad at her mom and being like, Mom, just let her do it. But it did. This resonated with me so much. This is my 3rd copy of the book because I keep reading them so much and they're literally falling apart. Like, pages just falling out. The spine is, ripped in half. I should buy the hardcover, but I prefer a, paperback. So I keep buying the paperback versions. So good. If you haven't read a Sarah Dessen book, this is where I would start. And I know that, a lot of her books got picked up by Netflix. This was the 4th book to get picked up by Netflix. So I'm really excited. Along for the ride, I do believe they said it's coming out either this December or January, February timeframe of next year. I'd read the book first. It's really good. And you're not going to be disappointed. So, coming in at number 1 is the first book ever that I read that was a classic and, like, difficult-ish book to read in middle school outside of being asked to by a teacher, and that was Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen. And this is my original book. It has the annotations in it, so at the bottom, so that you can kind of like, look down, like, if you don't know what something means, that, that they use, that, with the verbiage they used back then, which was really helpful to me to learn when I was reading it the first time, because I was just like, what's a fortnight? What are you talking about? Like, what? And then, like some of the words they use, like shoe roses. What's a shoe rose? Like, I don't know what a shoe rose is, some of the words even we use now, like employment. We would use that as you have a job. Back then it was just an activity. You were doing an activity. So the annotations were great. I loved that. It was, and annotations might not even be the right word. I feel like I'm saying that and I'm like, oh yeah, it's an annotation. I don't think it is. Oh well. Was not an English major. I should have been. That was the idea. But then I just decided not to. And so I'm a nanny and I love it. And I wouldn't give being a nanny up for anything. I promise. They call it an unabridged text. I'm not sure if that's right either. I give up. Don't listen to me when it comes to stuff like that. But I feel like if you haven't read anything by Jane Austen, Pride and Prejudice is a great way to go. I read this after I watched the 2005 Keira Knightley movie of Pride and Prejudice, and I loved it. You know, they did make a few alterations in like the words they used in some of the scenes, but I know that there's always the big controversy of whether or not you like the Keira Knightley version or the Colin Firth version. I did not like the Colin Firth version at all. I love Keira Knightley, and that was why I ended up going to the movies and seeing it to begin with. But I felt like that version was just more authentic, and it's a little more like the whole like vibe and the feeling of the movie was just a little more authentic to the book, to me. Everyone has their own opinions, and that's a totally different video. Like, that could be a 3-hour video all in itself of people arguing which Jane Austen adaptation is better. It really could. So that was my top 10 favorite books. I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!